I'm open. Anyone can speak.
Daddy, who there?
Yeah, could.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was in Lagos
Yeah.
last 2 weekends. But I really need
Okay.
okay. Do you see what's in there? I don't know.
Mm.
Like this program
Mm.
that's going on right now. Don't hear about
Mm.
ALX.
Did you list any examples of the operators?
ALX is a self-paced program
Okay.
organized by
Yeah.
So what they do is, I think their registration for Africans
Plus minus.
is free.
Yeah.
The course runs for 1 year. They will teach you
Mm.
C programming. They will teach you Python.
Okay.
Then
That's
they will
conditional statements. Yeah.
teach you
Okay.
some other
Okay. That's
programming
actually a lot.
languages like that. JavaScript. But
Yeah.
JavaScript is the last thing they will teach you.
Did you all quite understand it?
Too hot for this year. I think
Yeah.
it's 2 times.
You understood everything?
A year.
Or we should touch on them again?
No, not Zuri. I passed out on Zuri. I did Zuri.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Abigail and Jennifer, you have any extra thing to say? You covered last class.
The thing there is cool. The thing there is
Abi, they're not here.
the ALX the pace is not that fast, but you need to be fast to it. It runs for 1 year.
Yeah. Good
But
evening.
they'll teach you like 3 programming languages within a year. Say my
Yes.
maybe your girl. Alright, I'm gonna send you the links.
Mm.
The link for that ALX.
You see the song? You see how? I won't collect and put for this.
Okay, your network is not quite clear, but I was able to pick a number of things to say.
I know put an inside.
That's not a problem. Okay,
You mean it's not compulsory for them to do that?
I'll just go through them again for the sake of your assignments. Or is there anyone here that completely understood what the assignment required of you? Jennifer, your mic is already open. You understood what it was asking of you? You know what you're to do in that assignment? Sorry?
If you miss about 80, I think 80, 85% in a month, they will drop you out of the program.
Okay.
No, ALS teaches you from scratch. They don't assume.
Your network is not quite clear. Just type yes or no, so I know your own opinion about the assignment. Bukola, what do you think about the assignment? It was clear to you?
Like 70 hours a week.
Abigail?
Learn to code now. Much?
Yeah.
Is it much?
Okay. Okay, no problem. So everything we're going to be talking in this class should help you know how to go about the assignment. So it's up to you to pay attention. Abigail, is this clear to you what to do in the assignment?
Can you hear me?
Is she here?
It's what in the long run. What?
Abigail?
You will need a laptop to do it because you'll be practicing.
Yeah, your mic is open. Can you speak? Yeah, I can hear you. Good evening. Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you. Continue.
The thing is, it's up to you. It's self-paced now, but you must.
I can hear you. Continue.
But you must use that 70 hours.
Good evening.
about that one, most of the classes are recorded except on the time. Maybe you guys have what's it called? Instructor-led classes. I think their time is American time.
Okay, okay, no problem. Were you present in the last class? Unmute yourself. Were you present in the last class?
Yeah, sure. But most of the like language.
I think you've missed at least 2 classes so far. I don't know why. Is it intentional or something? Why? Is it intentional? Okay, no wahala. Henceforth, please try to be attending the classes. Okay. Okay, okay. Sorry?
Apply first. They may do this thing.
Okay, okay, okay. Okay, no wahala. So, yeah. So this is one thing about this work. This work.
Yeah.
Everything will not be treated or taught to you in particular. So you would have to always go online to make your own research. Everything will never ever be taught to you in software engineering. So Google is your friend. You would be hearing about this phrase from time to time. If you remain in this path, everything you'll be searching for, just go to online. Go online and search for it. Okay, I'll share my screen.
Okay, no problem. No problem. Hey, they break where I hear what they do.
Okay, Adama just joined us.
Enjoy your evening. Good night. Say, enjoy your night.
Hello, Adama, welcome. Seems like she was still on the road. You see the road? Okay, give me 1 second. Looks like my system is hanging a bit. Okay. What should I? Okay, for the class, we would have to go through the string object and a number of other things. So I'll quickly start with string. 1 second. String and operators. I'll select Java. By now, you guys should already know how to create a project. If you want to build any project. So what I just did, the just basic step on how to create a new project. My system is hanging this evening. I don't know why. Okay, very well. They have string variable. Did you guys talk about methods or functions? Functions, yes. No, not character. Character is the data type. Method is what I'm talking about. Okay. So this thing we've been, let me zoom in on my screen. So this thing that you've always seen here, anytime I open a new project, is what's called method. This particular inner one is what's called method. So method is basically a block of code that is created to perform a particular function. That's what a method is. and you want it to execute and give you a particular result. So that's what method is. And the assignment he gave you, he expects you to use a method. He must have mentioned that methods. Give me 1 second, please. Okay, okay, I think it's fine now. All right. So the way this thing is here, this is a method, and in creating a method, you use several keywords, as you can see here, the public, static, void, and main in creating a method. So this is an inbuilt method that always comes anytime you create a class. So this main you're seeing here is what class is. So class is more like a collection of several methods. All of the methods have their own specific function to perform. So if for example now you want to write an algorithm or a function or a method that does 1 plus 1, you would create it like this by using the keyword public. You get to learn about what public does, static, and what void. So this void, I will talk more on it later. But for now, just know that this is a return type. I will tell you what a return type is later. So you want to write a function or a method that does what? That sums up two numbers. Let's say I call the function sum. It takes in what? It takes in two numbers. I'll call it int and call it this one int b. So what does, who can remember what these two things here mean? The int a and int b, and why I had to use int in declaring them. Okay, not to waste our time. So this is, if you remember from last class, we spoke about variables. Variable, I told you, is like a container that houses an object or a number or any data type. So you will see how this works later. So if you want to sum two numbers, let's say int, to sum these two numbers, you basically do a plus b, right? And then return what the sum is. And to do that, I would do something like a plus b. So whatever the sum is what I'll carry and store inside this particular variable called c. So this variable called c now will be holding whatever the sum of a and b is. Why is this thing hanging? So it will be holding whatever the sum of a and b is. So if I pass in 2 here and then pass in, excuse me 1 second. Okay, much better. So if I pass in 2 here and pass in 3 here, what would happen here will be 2 plus what? 3. And this c would be 5, basically. And because we are not expecting this method to return something after performing, that's why I didn't use the keyword return. So there's something called return keyword. So this keyword, you already know what keywords are. I told you before that these are reserved words in Java that perform a specific task. If you use it outside of the function that it has been designed to perform, you have errors. So if I wanted to return whatever the sum of these two things are, what I will do is to tell it to return C. So to do that, I will have to change this void thing and tell it to return what? Int. Because I know that 2 plus 3 will be what? 5. And at this point, return that 5 to at any point wherever it's called. So let's write a statement where we are calling this function now, so you can see it in action. Okay, so before I go any further, you guys should ask me any question if you have any. Any questions? Adoma, I guess we're all fine then. Book color, anything? It's all clear, but okay, very good. That's nice. That's progress. So if in the future I want to know what a sum of any two numbers would be, all you need to do is to design a program such as this one that would perform the function of summing up two numbers and then return the sum, return the result for you. So if, for example, I have, let's say, int k, and let me call it 10, right? And then int j, let's call it, you already know how to assign variables, right? So what I did here is just to assign two variables, 10 and 20, to k and j, respectively. And now I want to find what the sum of k and j would be. All I need to do is to call this function here sum and pass in those two things I'm looking for their sums for, and pass in k and what j. So this will perform. This will supply 10 and 20 into this place. 10 would be here. The first one, this is k, would come here, and it will be 10. So basically, what's in this first place? This a is called a parameter. So this b is also a parameter. So this is one parameter, this is another parameter. So I pass in 10 and 20. So the 10 would come here, the 20 would come here, and it sums the two of them up. And whatever the sum is would be returned here. Now if I want to, let me store this in a variable. I would call it, let me call it 2. Now if I want to know what the sum of these two numbers are, what I will do is just to print it out in the system. And to print out something, since I told you, you use what? System.out.println, or SOUT for short. So if I'm to run this program now, you should be expecting to see 30 in the console. So we are not limited to passing in only two variables, a and something like sum, open bracket, close bracket, and that will be all. None of this will be in. So I'll just show you one scenario where that could happen. So once this is done building, we should see 30 in the console. So let me just write another function where we do not need to pass in any parameter. So to create a function, just know that you start with public static for now. The public and the static will be explained to you, but for now you can do away with it. So, but what I'm writing here, that's int, is basically the return type. It is the return type that after executing, I'm expecting something to be returned, and it should be of type integer. So that's what this int is doing for me. So now, if you look in the console, you can see 30 here. Can you see it? Are you guys there? Okay, very well, very well. So basically, I created the variable k and assigned 10 to it. I created the second variable 20, and I created another variable j and assigned 20 to it. So I'll carry that 10 and put it here, and carry that 20 and put it here. It's possible for me to add code here and put in 10, and do what? And put in 20. This would also work. You understand? This would also work. But in many cases, you will be bounded by a situation where you need to create the variable first. You won't need to hard code it. So in programming, you don't know what the future holds. So this, like I told you, this is a variable. The values they will hold change. So it's not always the case that you have to hard code 10 here or 20 here. Now, what about in the future where you want to sum 50 and 50 or 30 and 70? Will you come and hard code it here? So it's possible. It's possible that you don't always have to build when you're building a big project. Since you don't know what the parameters or arguments would be, is okay. So I'll take this back to what it was. And also if you observe, you can see the hint that this thing is given here, that this is A and this is B. This means that this 10 does a summation and does what? Return. Now I can have a shorthand where I don't want to explicitly store this in variable C. Let me comment this out. Now it's possible for me to just go ahead and do what? And write A plus B. So whatever the sum is, just Kukuma go and return it. So I wouldn't have to store it in variable C first. I believe this makes sense. So it just does the summation here, and whatever the thing evaluates to, it returns it straight up. All right, I'll change this back. So this should be C. Okay. Okay. So okay, the example I was talking about now is the one that doesn't take in parameters. It doesn't take in parameters. So I could do something like sort sum without params. So this is the method name. Everything I'm writing here, sort without params, is what's called the method name. So this naming is at your own disposal. You can call it anything you like. If you observed, I call this one sum, but you should always call it something that makes sense to you. Someone's mic is open. Okay. So you should always call it something that makes sense to you. So this one I can say sum without params. This one I can say sum with params. So this is for this because I know it's taking into parameters. So if you observe, I changed the name of this, and this is now red. Can anyone say why? Any response? Come again. I can't hear you. I can't hear you. Your network is actually bad today. I don't know why, Jennifer. So this was supposed to be K and J, but it doesn't change what we want to do. Can anyone else attempt? Jennifer, your network is very bad. Anyone? This was sum before. Now I changed it to sum with params. So the params I'm calling it here is short for parameters. No one is coming up. Or you didn't get the question. When I changed from sum to sum with params, this thing started complaining and turned red. Bukola, is she there? Adoma, Abigail. All right. Jennifer, you can type your this thing if you really want to speak. Type your message, but I can't hear anything with your network. Adoma, can you suggest? Abigail? It's actually correct, yeah. Did Jennifer type anything? No. Very well. So this, like I said, I want to perform a task of doing of what? Adding two numbers together. Now to perform that task, I have a function or a method that does that for me. And what did I call the method? Sum with parent, right? Now I'm coming here and I'm calling a method sum. So it's now looking for where this method is because I never created it. That's why it's complaining. That's why it's red. I'm trying to perform the task of what? Calling a method that doesn't exist and passing in two parameters to it to go and do what? Nothing. So basically, because I changed this to sum with parents, I should also change this to what? Sum with parents. And as I'm typing, IntelliJ often will suggest to you what you want to type. So we have two methods here, sum without params and sum with params. And if you look, the first one is not what we're looking for. If you look down here, we have sum without params. We have sum without params. And it doesn't what? It doesn't take any parameter. And if you look in the second one, it takes in parameters. It takes in what? A and B. That's why this one. That's why if you look here, this is the function that is being shown here. I believe this makes sense to everyone. So it's either for me to type it in, yeah. So it's either for me to type it in full, or I just go ahead and use my arrow key and scroll down and choose the one I want. And if you look at this end, it's showing int. So whatever is on this end is usually the return type, int for integer, and that's what's being denoted here. This place my cursor is hovering over. So this here is the return type. That's what is being shown here. The return type is integer. 10 plus 20 is 30. 30 is integer. 30 is whole number. And that's the return type that is being indicated here. So if I hit enter, it will type it in full, basically. So that's why this one was complaining, because it wasn't seeing any method or function created with the name sum. If I go ahead and change this further to something else, now this one is not existing again. I'm trying to call a method which is not existing. Now this one is on its own. You get. So if I clean this thing, everything is fine now. And if you observe, the colors were always changing anytime I make changes. So it's orange anytime it has a usage somewhere. Now if you look, IntelliJ is telling you that what? It has one usage. And if you check, this is the usage. That is, you see, it took me to this place. So this is the instance where I made use of this method, sum with params. It's telling me that I made use of this in one place. If at any point I call this particular method again, this thing will update to two usages. But because I've used it only once, that's why it's like this. And now it's showing orange because it has been used once. If you come to this one, it's showing what? Gray, because it has not been used before. If in the future I use this one, it will change to orange or yellow. And this one is this way because what? Because I'm calling this one basically. That's why it's italics. Okay. Now if I want to, let's complete this function. And now if you look down, this thing is red here, and there's a reason why. There's a reason why. Because I'm telling it to return something. I'm telling it to return an integer. And now I've written the full method. I've not in any way told it to return something. If I went ahead to return, let's say return 0, 0 is an integer, it will stop complaining. So what I did now is just for it to stop complaining. But this is not all I want. This is not all I want. I'll still have to write more code. So it will complain again. It's complaining because I've not returned what I said I would return. I said I would return integer, but I've written the entire method now. Or should I say I've left it blank. I've not stated anywhere that this is what I want to return. That's why when I wrote return 0, I could write any integer, basically anything. It will stop complaining. You understand? You guys understand? Okay, okay. Let me explain it. Shall you see this place I call this method? Uh, so what's happening here is basically what's called method call. So this is the method that I am calling. I'm calling on it. I'm calling on it to do its job, the job that it's created for. And anytime you're calling it, you must specify two things that the method was created with. That's these two parameters. You must specify the two of them. Otherwise, it's complain. If I don't pass in anything here, it's complaining. It's complaining. It's complaining because I created this method and said anytime I want to use you, I'll give you two values, two arguments. So the word is argument. The word is argument. I say that anytime I'll call it, I'll pass in two arguments. But the way it is now, the way it is stated here, it is parameter. But anything you pass in the future is what's considered the argument. So when creating the method, you consider this as parameter. But if I come here and pass in, let's say 10 and 50. So 10 is one argument, 50 is one argument. But the way it is here, A and B is parameter. This one is straightforward. So let's go back. If I remove these two things, now it's complaining because I've not passed in arguments to it. I've not passed in any arguments to it. Meanwhile, I created this method and say anytime I'm going to call you, I must pass in something with which you can perform your work with. But now I've created it without passing in anything. So I'll pass in K and J here. Now it will stop complaining. Life is good. So with this K and J, it will perform its work and return something for us. So when I say return, this is what I mean. If I give you money to go to market and say I ask you to buy me fish. Now if you finish buying that fish, I'm expecting you to come back with something, and that's the fish. So that's what I mean by return. Now see this entire thing as the market, and now see K and J as the money with which you perform the transaction with. Now if I enter here, this is where all the transaction is happening. Now if the entire transaction has happened, it will now I will now have fish basically in the return in the end. Now that fish is what I want to come back with. This C is the fish. Now that value that is being returned is what's being stored in this variable U. So see this entire thing as the market. I'm calling on this market where the entire transaction happens. These two things is basically see them as the money. So the transaction happens. Now I'm expecting something in return. And what am I expecting? The result. That's the fish. Now that fish, after evaluating it, see that 10 plus 20 has happened there, and it will evaluate to 30. So if it returns, I could say remove this and put 30. This is basically what happens underground. Does this one make sense to you? This is basically what happens underground. So if I come here, let me put a comment here. So what happens here is 10. I'm using 10 and 20 because those are the parameters I passed in up here. So it's not always the case that it's 10 and 20. So these are just the two numbers we are demonstrating with. So 10 plus 20 would happen here, and after it finishes happening, the value of C would be what? After it finishes happening, 10 plus 20, then C would become what? 30. 2 will become 30. Now, here, what I'm doing is what? I'm returning, I'm returning what? I'm returning 30. So this 30 is what's being stored, what's being dropped here. So basically, this is like into u equal to that. This is what happened. This is what the timeline is now. So if I went ahead to pass in, let's say, 1 and 13, that you that it resulted to, which is 4. So 4 is what's being returned and kept here. So our int u, this will then what change to, okay. So if you don't return this, if you don't use this return statement, it will perform the entire transaction and then not bring back anything for you. Now you've gone to market, you've done everything you want to do. Now what are you bringing back? Nothing. So this return helps us to return that thing that was we got after the entire process, basically. Mm-hmm. All right. So back to this one now. Back to this sum. Any questions so far apart from Bokola? Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear. Yeah, come again. You said what? You made no, no. It will not show. It will not show. No, it's not. Continue. Continue. Yeah. So it will not show in the console. No, it will not show. If you want, yeah, for it to show, you show you guys. For it to show, that's why I use this print statement here. So anytime you perform the transaction, it will return whatever it is, and I'm storing it inside here. You. Now I'm coming here to print that thing that we return from this method or this function. Yes. So anytime I want to see something on the console, it doesn't magically come up. You have to be the one to specify that I want to see this thing on console. You get. So it's possible that before I sum up anything, that you want to see what I'm summing up. So you can print A first and do what? Print B. It's not always the case you'll be printing things though. So this one is just for you to see things, to visualize them. You get. Uh-huh. So it's possible that you want to see A first and you want to see B. So by using this print now, I can see that if I run it, it will print A is what 1, and then B, which is this, is 3. Yeah. Any other question? So another thing is I call this in A is a variable and I call this B. It's not always the case that I must call it A or B here. If I change this thing and call it A or B, it would still work. It will still work. Now there's something called scope of variable. I could treat that towards the end of this class. There's something called scope of variable. That's the extent to which something exists, to which a variable exists. So I just decided to call this K and call this J and then pass them in here because I know everything will still be fine, basically. I could have gone ahead to change this one to A and change this to B. But this would then complain because they are not existing. I'll change it from K to A, and from J to B. That means I'll come here again and change this one to A, and change this one to K. Sorry, B. Now, if you look, remember I told you guys something about, I think let me finish what I said earlier. So this is sum without params. So this is a situation where you could have a function, a method that doesn't take in any parameter. Remember this one takes in two parameters. Now this one takes in no parameter. No parameter. Okay. Okay. In that for this situation, it then means we basically this is what's called hard coding. I just came here and told it to return 3. Now this is a valid method, but what this does, or all this one does, is to what? Is to return 3. That's only what it does. And I don't know why anyone would want to create a method that returns only 3. So anytime I call this method without params in the future, all it will do is just to what? To return 3. Okay, let's come down here. Okay, let's come down here, and if say I do int c equal to sum without params, exactly. What should be returned from this function or this method? Now in this case, I just want you to go to market and do whatever you have to do, but I'm not giving you any money. Bukala, are you there? Exactly. I just want you to go to market and do whatever you have to do and return something afterwards. Now I'm not giving you any money. I'm not giving you any parameter or argument. Now because if you check this method, this is a method, all it does is to what? Just return 3. So if I come in the future and do int d equal to sum without params, this c will be 3, this d would also be 3, because the values are not updating. The values are not updating. That's why c will be 3 and d would also be 3. If I print it now, if I print it in my console, say I want to print c equal to d. If I print it, this should print true. Now, if you want to compare two things, if you want to compare two integers, this is how you compare them. You use 2 equal to sign. Now, this c is equal to d with the what? It will result to true. Now, this is short. This thing I wrote here now is the shorthand for boolean. Boolean. I could just call it is equal. C. Let's say c equal to d. Now if I come here, I'll just print is equal. So this is more like I'm asking a question. Is c equal to d? It will evaluate and return either true or false. And if I come here, I'll print out whatever was evaluated. And if I go ahead and print this out, it will show me true, because I know that c is 3 and d is 3 as well. If I also over this, you can see it's telling me to simplify this to true. All right. So one thing I could have also done is just to print out the value of c and print out the value of d. But that wouldn't be necessary, because I know that c compared to d would always equal to true. All right. So let's just wait for it to print. Okay. So this is it here. So sum without params. I called this method, and it's returning something for me. It's returning 3. Now I called the same method again, and it's returning something for me. What's it returning? It's returning 3 again. Now I want to compare, are they equal? Now this is how I can do it. C equals to D. It will evaluate and return something is equal. Now I want to print out that thing that it evaluated to. So if instead of me writing this entire thing, you can write a shorthand. You can write a shorthand and just do C equal to D. So this basically is a shorthand. It will evaluate to whatever it results to, and then it will print it out straight off. Does this make sense, Bukola? And every other person? Okay. Okay, so this is for some without parents. All right. Now, so this is for when we want to return what? We want to return integer. Now, what about the feature? You want, let's say you want to return any other data type that is not just integer. Of course, I told you integer is what? Whole number. Now, I want to return any other data type, say 3.14. That's 5, right? I want to return it. You can do public static. Now, what's the return type I'll put here? Anyone? I want to return a decimal. What's the return type? Or exactly. So yeah, so it's always advisable to use double, the bigger one. Double leads to more precision, precise number. So use double. So what do we want to return now? Um, okay, let's say some double. So let's say this double takes in, is not restricted to 2. It then means that anytime I'm calling this sum double, I must pass in 3 parameters the way I specified here. Also note that it's not a must that this should be integer. The way I change it from integer here to double here is the way I also have liberty to change the input type here. It mustn't be integer. But in the case where it is integer, you can change it. You have the liberty to change it to whatever you want. Now let's say now I specify that what I want to return in the future what is double after the operation, after it's going to market and everything. The return type that I'm expecting after everything is to be is to be of double type double. Now let's say we have uh, okay. What I can do now to sum these 3 things is okay. Let me first of all change this to double. I could change this to double and change this to double too. Now I can do d equal to a plus b plus c. Now something is missing. Why is this thing complaining? Exactly, yeah. I didn't specify the type that I want. That's why it's complaining. So after doing the sum, I'll do what? Return this. Okay. Mm. All right. Okay. There's something I have to introduce to you guys before we continue, and that's typecasting. If, for example, this method takes in int and the 3 of them are int. One could be double, others int, also all of them could be int, like we have in this case. If I do a plus b plus b if you remember plus C, if you remember the last class, if for example I passed in, let's say let's say A is equal to 2. Let me comment it all. Let's say A is equal to 2, and B is equal to 5, 4, and C is equal to, let's say, 5. So 3 plus 4, 7 plus 5 is 12. If it comes here, because I specified that the type here should be double, if I do the sum here, what it would be what? 12. Jennifer, it was you I asked some time ago that because I specified here to be double, it will not just leave this thing as double. On the hood, it will add 0.0 behind. So if I'm to return now, what would be returned will be 12.0. Because the type casting here is integer 3, that's A 3, B is 4, because all of them are type integer. So this is just for demonstration. I've not already passed it in. I have not passed it in. But if this, for example, these were the values that were passing 3, 4, and 5, and after doing the sum, it results to 12. I know 12 is a whole number. 12 is an integer. It's not a double. What this program will do on the hood is to what? Convert it to double and do what? Add 12.0 in front of behind it. So another way we can go about it is to do what I just did here. This is what's called typecasting. This is what's called typecasting. So if, for example, you wrote something and it's complaining that it's expected double and you're passing in int, what you can do is to what? Do typecasting. So this basically is more like you're using your own hand to add 0.0. You're not leaving it to the computer to do for you. So after evaluating this 3 plus 4, 7 plus 5, 12, it will be 12. This double here, this is what typecasting, this was called typecasting. I'm manually using my own hand to change this to decimal kind of data. That's more like saying I'm manually using my hand to put 0.0. I'm not leaving it for the computer. But in many cases, this is what basically you would have to do. You want to convert from integer to double. You have to go this way. So you have to convert it yourself from integer to double by coming in front of these numbers and cast it. You can also write something like this. Everything's go back. All right. So this particular formula, you would need it when you're solving that quadratic equation part. There's a part, I think it's minus b plus minus square root b squared minus 4ac whatever. So for that square root part, after evaluating what you're squaring, then you call on this math.square root to find the square root. Then something like minus b plus minus, of course this minus will be under square root. So if you come here, it will be something like math.square root after evaluating what's on the inside, dot. Sure you guys understand? You understand, bro? Huh? So okay, I'll just leave this one here. So after, let me open that assignment. Okay, this is it. Okay, so this is okay, so this is the thing. We have to forget about everything that has been put here, these test cases. But after writing, you may want to try out. If your program is working fine. want to try it if your program is working fine. So this is what the test cases are for. But let's pretend like it's not here. So for this minus b plus minus so this one is square minus 4ac. So what I can do is, so this one that is under the this one that we are required to find the square root. What I can do is to, for example, come here and evaluate that one first. So I'll evaluate that one first. Let's say okay, let me not comment it. Let's say it's int, or rather quickly be double. Don't use int. So what it will mean that this will be minus 2.0 and this will be minus, more like double I could call it root path. So variable, you're free to call any name you want in variable, but call it something that will make sense to you. So this will be root path. So if, for example, they passed in a and b and what c. So this is complaining because I've what removed root. It was root on top. Now I'll change it to other things. So I would just keep this here. So this is the method to find square root. Let me write it. To find square root. Let me keep it on top. This is not necessary again. 4.0 we give it the square root to be what? 2.0. So if for this root part, this part I'm trying to evaluate now, this particular part is for this part, this b square minus 4ac. So it's more like something like this. So b will be the second parameter, c will be the third parameter, and a will be the first parameter. So it's more like b square, right? B times b minus what? 4 multiplied by what? A multiplied by what? C. So just by doing this one, I've solved for this part. So this particular line now solves for this inner part. Now if I want to find the square root, I could do something like root, or you can call it square root. I could do square root of what? Square root of root part. So this is math dot root part. Sorry, math dot square root. That's SQRT. That's short for square root. The root part. So this is it. So these two lines now are solved for this inner, are solved for the entire of this place. This is a picture, so I can't highlight it. So from this square root to the end, I've solved for it. Now you're supposed to, now for the remaining part of your task, you're supposed to do minus b plus or minus. So to do the plus and minus, of course, you do that separately. So you find the value for the plus side and you find the value for the minus side, and go ahead and divide by 2a for each of them. So in the end, you'll be having two values. Now for that one, what you can do is to return void. Now I will cover this return void, and that will be the last thing we'll be treating. So the return void, the return void type is also what you will need that to solve your assignment. So the return void is I'm not returning anything. Okay. Okay, let me not create too many methods. So let me just change this one to return void. Um, Adobe, Adoma rather. Now why is this complaining? This line is complaining. Why is it showing red? Exactly. Now this void is, I'm telling it do not return anything. I'm telling it that you don't have to return anything. I just want you to perform the function you're performing. So in this case, you're going to market and then you're returning nothing afterwards. So perform every function that I specify, every command I specify under this block of code, and then return nothing. Now this is complaining because I'm now attempting to return something. Meanwhile, I said I'm not returning anything. So void means empty. I'm not returning anything. So I could go ahead and delete this line. So for that your task, now it has stopped complaining because I'm not attempting to return anything. So for that your task, since you have two possible values, it's asking you to return x1 and x2. So this is more like x1 and x2. If, for example, you finish evaluating your value, let's say it's double. Let's say double. After evaluating, let's say the first answer is this is minus 2.0, right? And then okay, it's complaining because I've assigned the other one is minus 3.0. This is complaining because I've made use of a before, and now I'm trying to make use of it again. So if, for example, you finish solving your solution, you finally get the answer 2.0 and 3.0. Now what you should do is to make your program to print it out, to sort it on the console. Don't return anything. Just write your program that it print it out in the console. So let's say what you can do is say um, x1. Now this is how to print out something in console together with variable. Now I want to print out j and k. I could do x1. I'll put it in a string and then do plus uh, j. Okay, let me make this thing more realistic. I'll call this x1. I'll call this x2. So I'll come here and do x1, and then after that, the other thing you can do is x2. So after solving your own, make your answer come out like this. Print it out in the system. So this is x1. Whatever the answer is here, it will substitute it into this place. Whatever the answer is here, to substitute it in. So if I go ahead and print, if I print the answer for x1, the values of 1 and x1 and x2, it will be something like this on the console. To be something like this on the console. X1 minus 2.0, x2 minus 3.0. So if this is printed out in the console the way it is here now, so this is what it will give me basically. So these things are just test cases and to ensure that the algorithm you write is correct. So basically you have to write just one algorithm like I've done here for this area of a circle. So if I passed in any radius, it will give me the correct area. If I passed in any radius of a circle, be it 2, be it 3, be it any number, to give me the correct area of that circle. So in the same vein, if you pass in any three values of this quadratic equation, let's say if I pass in 1, 5, and 6, you should give me the correct, you should print out to the console the correct answer. By passing 1, 5, minus 6, I'm expecting to see x1 to be 1. I'm expecting to see x2 to be minus 6. By passing 1, minus 4, and minus 5, I'm expecting x1 to be minus 1 and my x2 to be 5 in the console. So for that first one, I'm expecting to see something like this. But it's one algorithm that will run all those different test cases. So this is what the test case here simply means. Does it all make sense? No one is talking. Alpha, who is there? I've been only me there. Yeah. Any questions? Abigail, Bukola, Jennifer. Okay. So I think the deadline for this assignment is tomorrow. So basically, you're having two assignments, this first one and this second one. You already know what string is. There's no need for prolonging it. So you have, this one shouldn't be anything. You should understand it from the area of circle. This one, I already solved half of it. So you have to solve and submit by tomorrow. The deadline is there. So go to Classroom and see the deadline. So for this file, I will upload it now. You can access it after I upload it. Okay, so we shall be ending here. See you guys on Wednesday, I guess. Alright, good night, everyone. Okay, 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 okay. Okay, 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 okay. You know what? Remain on the call, Bukola. The rest can go. So you share your screen, yeah.